Welcome back to Sunday Nation. Always good to have Chris Collins, the president and artistic director of the Detroit International Jazz Festival Foundation. Thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
Likewise, it's good to have you. I know you've been rolling out a lot with the festival. It's coming up again this year. This is the what, the 44th festival, okay? It's a long time. You're almost 6 years away from a half a century.
Half a century, and what's amazing is since the very beginning, it's remained entirely admission free, which is,
right.
Those things can come and go because they rely on, the generosity of others.
Yeah.
And, but the result has been the build of this cultural institution that taps into the artists and the community of Detroit, and now to the whole world. So it serves to export, Detroit culture and Detroit vibe, and it serves to be a place where artists from all around the world and patrons from all around the world can gather together in a beautiful environment in our city and enjoy the center of the art of jazz, but available to everyone because of that lack of admission fee. And to sustain that for 44 years is credited to everyone.
So instead of people going to New Orleans, they should just come to Detroit.
I'll tell you what, man. The beauty of it is so many things.
I like New Orleans, though.
Yeah, so many things you talk about,
right.
And music for sure, jazz. An important part of it is regionalism. Every region has their own sound all around the world, and Detroit has its own sound. Has a lot of respect in the destiny, right?
Yeah.
So it is one of the things I try to do is emulate the things I experienced when I was young here in the States and in Europe, which was that diversity that one experienced when you went to different cities and different countries and saw jazz festivals and club hits. You get to experience a flavor of everyone's perspective grounded on this history and languge of this music.
It's almost jazz becomes this amalgamation.
It does,
interconnectedness.
Right? That's right, and yet it's still a big part of the goal is to maintain your individualism, right, as an individual and as an ensemble, and also to reflect one's life as an artist, and that means where you come up and how you come up is going to have influence on how you use that language to shape what you have to say. That to me is, that's the height of communication. I want to know who you are when I hear what you guys say.
But it was a writer, and I want to come to the artist in residence, the announcement that you've made recently. But it was a writer once said that that writers are almost like prophets because they come from a certain class experience. And I think if we extend that analogy to even jazz, I mean, jazz musicians are like prophets because one, you're performing based on a certain experience, and it's your own individual experience. It's one that mirrors the challenges, the opportunities of society.
That's exactly right, and your own personal perspective on that, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's incumbent upon every artist you have to invest in life. You have to sample the world. You have to get to know people. You have to keep an open mind because your perspective is limited in meaning if it isn't a broad and global perspective, right? You're only bringing so much to the table. So artists have to invest in that side. And then the other piece, jazz is so innately, through history, connected to civil rights and social movements. It can have even jazz that is not lyric based, instrumental, can have a profound impact on those movements and the opening up the perspective of others to those movements. So and of course that is very close to Detroit.
Well, I mean it's been the talking drum of the civil rights movement and like you said, social movements. So you have the jazz festival, you got the artists in residence. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, this is important this year. We do it every year, and the artist in residence does activities through the community. Through the year and prepares a very special multiple performances for the festival, and then they perform at the festival. But this year it's special. It's a guy I've known my whole life because he's a native Detroiter. And I came up knowing him as a great jazz drummer. He went on to play with, Roy Hargrove and Mulgrew Miller and Benny Green and on and all the jazz cats, right? Serious cat. And but then, man, he went on to evolve his life from quite young in the areas of hip hop and electronica and DJ music and production, and he's made this whole career that brings all those worlds together. And the cat is Karriem Riggins, who everyone, all the jazz cats in Detroit know him.
Yeah.
Here he's out there in the world, one of the award-winning producers in these other music. So, I mean, in addition to all the jazz cats, he did some beautiful work with Jay Dilla and with Common and with Erykah Badu, and list goes on and on. So you can imagine having an artist in residence at the Jazz Festival that's this important creative jazz drummer, but he's bringing with him this whole world of contemporary urban musics, and he is, as many have tried, but in a very sophisticated way, he'll be blending and mashing those things together. So his 3 concerts at the festival will be a result of that life.
But what I like about this though is, and I've watched this even long, at a distance before we met, and that is the concept, the idea of an artist in residence. You add, there's a scholarly, it's a scholarly addition to the festival, but at its very core, upholding the essence of jazz itself, and bringing people who would be considered as stalwarts of this music. In itself.
Boy, thank you for saying that.
I don't see many jazz festivals having an artist in residence.
And we make sure the artist in residence is in our community throughout the year, whether they're from here or not. In this case, it's such a beautiful message to our Detroit youth and our Detroit community. Here is a Detroit-born son who's gone out and conquered the world in super creative ways, as you might expect a Detroiter to do. So when with him and with all our artists in residence, we have specific programs that bring them in, and they engage with different generations in our community. They engage in panel discussions and interviews before and during the festival, so people can get to know them and know their perspective, the breadth of their perspective. But and for instance, Karriem did a thing on April 11th. He came in and he worked with a plethora of students from the upper high school and university realm, and did workshops working directly with them as players and with ensembles, and engaging with them, and then hanging out and talking with them and sharing experiences and opportunities. That doesn't happen when the musician is just on the bandstand.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true.
And it doesn't happen unless the artist themselves has a proclivity and an interest and a drive to be a mentor, to be a guide, and be an example.
And I think normally, artists are flown in and they fly out after their performance.
That's where it goes.
So it's not this situation where for Karriem, it's somewhat of a homecoming of sorts.
It really is. He does a lot around Detroit. He loves Detroit, and but yeah, I mean, he's got a new record label he's starting, which is like global stuff, man.
Nice.
It's heavy label, and all that will be part of what he shares, because he's trying to bring that Detroit sensibility of creativity, imagination, and individualism to all these scenes that range from jazz to hip hop and everything in between, and then how we can bring that together. And that means bringing together different generations, different cultures, different perspectives, and blend it all into something that presents a beautiful product.
A convergence. So let me ask you this then, before we move into the other things you have. What goes into the selection of an artist in residence?
Yeah, well, we always look for those artists that are important artistically. They're doing something that is propelling the art. They have a history and a
commitment to the genre.
A commitment to the genre and its language and its craft, right?
Okay.
But also, you want to find those artists that are open to being communicative and expressive and engaging with the community. So the artist in residence isn't just the performance. It's getting to know an artist, their culture, and them being an example, a positive example of where this world of jazz and music and whatnot can take you, the opportunities it presents, the challenges it presents, the challenges he faced, which is an incredible example for our youth and for our community, to know that when they hear that concert, man, they have a better understanding of what's behind it, which means it's going to be a more enriching experience for them.
So what else? You got the artists in residence. What other things are in the pipeline here? You've not released the A-list yet?
No, but it'll be coming out probably about the time people are watching this show. So I think if people look around, they're going to find it. We have media from all over the world who will be announcing our lineup, but it is the initial lineup. So a lot of the headliners and national acts and so on, man, use the language. We do it by day so people know what's happening each day. They can start planning. But then, round about June 1st, we release the other half. And the other half are all our specialty projects, the incredible, it's a large group of our Detroit, I call them the hometown artists, but they're globally recognized artists that are doing special programs, but they chose to live in Detroit. We always celebrate that. It's super important. And some of the crossover projects, the youth elements, the educational pieces, all that will be brought forward in June, so everyone will have a full vision. But starting now, everyone's going to get a clear idea of the unique mix and the diverse generations and genres and perspectives that are going to create September 1 through 4 in downtown Detroit. And it's I think it's going to be a lot for people to think about, and hopefully some things they know, but some things they don't know.
Well, I think this becomes an annual significant calendar in the annals of Detroit in terms of just the ability to have people, migrate, or perhaps some sort of a musical pilgrimage to Detroit every year for this festival. I mean, for some people, it's a musical pilgrimage.
It really is. Whether you're walking from your apartment, up Woodward to the festival footprint, or traveling from London or Japan, or almost a third of our audience comes from outside the region. So, and people do want. I've never heard anything except we came in 19 whatever. And we said we have to come every year, and it's not just because it's free. It's one of the top jazz festivals in the world.
I mean, the quality is the substantial.
The sound, we try to do everything, at the highest level, but also because the audience is so hip. Man, you take away admission, and suddenly, and not only can everybody come, everyone feels welcome to come. You have families, individuals, people from all over the world, and they're gathering together and enjoying the music as a single entity. So the artists will tell you the Detroit Jazz Festival audiences are some of the best in the world for jazz, and people who come here from other places and other jazz festivals will say, man, sitting in your audience, there's a vibe and there's a collection of diversity that doesn't exist, because if you got to go to a jazz festival without mentioning names or a jazz whatever, and you've got to pay $50 for a show, or you got to pay $2,000 to have a seat. Well, a lot of people are excluded from that. The diversity
That is true.
And what a testament to diversity that the artists brag about Detroit Jazz Fest audiences.
That's true.
That's what diversity produces, is greatness, man.
Yeah. Well, and I've having observed it, is the different stage performances you have, and each stage can hold its own because its quality is significant artist. It's not like, well, if I go to this stage as the lesson, but it all carries, each stage carries its own musical weight.
Yeah, for sure. And I hope I'm going to get you back.
Yes.
Taking vacation Labor Day weekend. I got a problem with that. I was so happy you got to see it firsthand.
Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing, and it's like there's a balance across the board with the stages, because you go to this stage, I mean, you go to the next stage, you don't have to worry, because it's not like you're going to hear better music.
It's all different, it's all good. Yeah. It's all, of course, vetted and carefully curated. It's my job to
but what's the demand on you? Because I can imagine, do you get lobbied by artists who want to show up? I mean, are you getting buffeted by emails? Are you getting spammed by emails? Because I know, it's significant. It's significant to appear on the stage of the jazz festival.
Yeah, it is, but it's a joyful job.
Right. Well, how do you get to vet, though? I mean, you have.
I keep, one of the things I do every year, as a musician, I play with artists, and I'm always listening and checking people out. And I listen a lot to what people say and what they play. But I also keep an open artist submission that runs from February all the way to June 1st. Any artist anywhere in the world can, for free, they upload their application and some tracks, and I listen blind to the tracks. That's where I always start. And I often hear things either.
That's a lot of music to listen to.
It is,
but this is what you do.
But along the way, as a musician, I get to enjoy the beauty and creativity of others, and you mix that with what I do in person and seeking people out around the world, and it all comes. So hopefully, Detroit audience is getting a full vision of what's happening in jazz and what's maybe about to happen in jazz.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Oh, man, the joy is mine. Thank you for being interested, Bankole.
All right. Chris Collins, of course, a longtime music professor. He's the president and artistic director at the Detroit International Jazz Festival Foundation. Every year, Detroit becomes an international destination for what I call a musical pilgrimage to the Motor City. Thanks for being here. We'll be right back.